This is Syracuses' record since Jon Rothstein wished them luck. In fact, since on Twitter you said, good luck in the CBI, they're actually 5-0. They lose to Notre Dame.
I don't think I said that on Twitter. I think I said that, facetiously to you on this show. I don't think it was on Twitter. I don't think it hit social media.
But look at those stats. Look at those stats. How would you, Jon Rothstein, characterize how Syracuse has been playing?
Well, I think Jim Boeheim did an unbelievable job of finally finding the right lineup. When you look at the lineup that Syracuse is playing right now versus the start of the season, there's a tighter rotation, there's a more cemented rotation, and when I had the chance on Monday to speak with Coach Boeheim, he told me that the one thing that's been really hard for Syracuse, even though they're playing better right now, is they have 4 starters who are in their first year in the program.
Yeah.
Everybody except for Tyler Lydon that's starting is in their first year of Syracuse. That's why it's taken this group some time to play at the level that they're playing right now.
Tyus battle last night. I mean, my goodness. That was incredible. Pulsating win. To me, in the last 5 games, all wins for Syracuse, I think the biggest statement, and they were all, NC State, the comeback. What happened last night with Tyus battle. UVA, Florida State. I thought the most impressive was UVA.
I agree with you because of the way that Virginia plays. And, the interesting thing when you really look at Syracuse's last 5 games, they've been a really good offensive team. In 4 of Syracuse's last 5 wins, they have scored 81 points or more. The only time where they didn't reach that mark was the 66-62 win against Virginia. But I think right now, the underlying storyline, and I wrote about this last week in one of my columns that nobody's talking about, is Andrew White, the 5th-year transfer from Nebraska, is quietly on a massive tear. When you look at some of the great wings that have played for Syracuse, statistically, Andrew White over the last 3 weeks is right up there with some of the greats that have worn the orange.
Speaking of Boeheim, who I talked to today on our SiriusXM radio show, he stressed how much fun he had on your podcast, which was unbelievable.
I don't believe that. You got to send me the audio.
It was. But you know what he also stressed? What he said to you? This Gonzaga team is legit.
Well, the thing about this Gonzaga team, and Coach Boeheim made this point to me on Monday, which is a phenomenal point, they have high major experience. Now, Gonzaga has always had high major transfers. Last year they had Kyle Wiltshire from Kentucky. But when you think about this Gonzaga team, Nigel Williams-Goss played 2 years at Washington. Jordan Matthews played 3 years at Cal. And Jonathan Williams, who has been a real force in the low post when his motor's turned on, has high major experience from Missouri. So it's a different type of Gonzaga team, the most balanced team I think that Mark Few has ever had. And they're obviously going to play Loyola Marymount on Thursday and then the big one in Moraga Saturday against St. Mary's.
In your opinion, John, do they deserve to be considered the team to beat in this wide-open, amazing year of college hoops?
I wouldn't say the team to beat, but considering the parity right now that we have in the sport, Gonzaga's trajectory in terms of the NCAA tournament is similar to the Wichita State team in 2014. Now, at the time, 3 years ago, I didn't think that Wichita State deserved the #1 seed, but because of the rest of the field, the Shockers wound up on the 1 line. Now, Wichita State's schedule that year wasn't near the schedule of Gonzaga. Let's look right now at who Gonzaga has beaten. They've beaten Florida on a neutral court, who might be the most complete team in the SEC. They've beaten Miami, who's contending for a bid. They've beaten Iowa State on a neutral court, who even though they lost to Texas last night, they beat Kansas at Fog Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday. They've also beaten Akron, who could be the favorite in the MAC, and they beat Arizona by 7 in Los Angeles on December the 3rd. Now, Arizona didn't have Alonzo Trier, didn't have Parker Jackson Cartwright, but they still have an unblemished record, and they still also have beaten St. Mary's and will get St. Mary's on the road against Saturday. So I don't know if they're the team to beat, Adam, but to me, right now, they should be on the 1 line.
UVA with a big-time win over Louisville last night. Tony Bennett is remarkable. What impresses you when you look at this team, and how good, big picture, do you think UVA can be?
Well, right now, what you're seeing under Tony Bennett is the same attributes that made Bo Ryan successful at Wisconsin, because he can replenish talent on an annual basis. Now, one of the great moments of your life is when Syracuse came back to beat Virginia last year in the Elite Eight. Think about this for a second. Virginia lost 4 players off that team last year. Malcolm Brogdon, Anthony Gill, Mike Tobey, and another obviously key player. And they also were counting on having Austin Nichols this year as their primary low post scorer. And Austin Nichols was dismissed from the program, the transfer from Memphis, who was projected to be an all-ACC player. So you lose 4 seniors from last year's team that had a lead on Syracuse, the 3 guys I mentioned, and Evan Nolte, and then their top interior player this year, who is projected to be an all-ACC player, gets dismissed from the program, and Virginia right now has only won 1 game less through the amount of games it played up to this point last season. That's Tony Bennett.